really throwing them down the rankings
because of the conference.
Yes, because that conference is so weak. I like the way they're stacking these teams up, and it makes it seem like, if for nothing else, Vandy looks to have an outside shot with a win over Tennessee.
We'll see if they can get it done there against their in-state rival. Moving into the top 10, Alabama, after that loss to Oklahoma at home this past weekend, falls all the way from 4 to 10. Notre Dame inside the top 10 at number 9, another controversial spot there for the Fighting Irish. Oklahoma inside of the top 10 now, currently hold a playoff spot after that big win over Alabama. Oregon at 7. We talked about that big one in Eugene this weekend, and Ole Miss is off this week before the Egg Bowl.
It was Greg McElroy, a former Alabama quarterback, that said this on the TV broadcast when the polls were out. He said, if you're Alabama, you probably feel good because you think if you have two wins, you finish 12-2, you're in the college football playoff, with a win over Auburn, of course, over Eastern Illinois this week. But if you're anybody else, you have to be looking at that and saying, well, the committee just watched Alabama, the number 4 team, lose to Oklahoma, another top 10 team, by 2 points, and they fall, like you said, 4 to 10. They drop 6 spots in the rankings. What does that mean for the rest of us if we end up losing a game late? So I think it tells more about how back in the old days, where late losses actually hurt you more than early losses. Early losses were bad, but not as bad as late losses. This makes it seem like late losses are bad as well.
You could definitely make that argument. You could also make the argument that the fact that they did lose to Florida State earlier in the year could play a little bit of a factor into this. But I mean, when there's a loss fresh on your mind, that can't help your resume at all. And then the top 5, Texas Tech. Well, look at what they've done over the past year. A lot of talk around the Red Raiders coming into the year, spending all of that money. Well, they got a top 5 football team over there in Lubbock, Texas. Georgia vaults up into the top 4, and then Texas A&M, Indiana, Ohio State all remain the same. So a little bit of an interesting top 5. But before we really get into some of the controversial ones, let's talk SEC real quick. And let's talk Vanderbilt, because, I mean, again, we saw that last week. I felt like the committee did a little bit of a favor putting them at 14.
For sure.
And honestly, giving them the benefit of the doubt, playing Alabama close until the last few minutes, and then making that monster comeback that just fell short against Texas.
Yeah.
You could make a legit case for, if they win out, they're in.
Yeah, and we have talked about this with both Corey Curtis and with Julian Minnesone, that this is a college football playoff team, in my opinion, if they have 2 losses on the season. And like you said, I think that they're playing the kind of football, the style of football, especially in the trenches. This is not like some Diego Pavia just pulling out magic. This is a good football team all around, and their tight end as well. So, I mean, if you're looking at the top 12 teams, in my opinion, I don't think you can make a top 12 without adding Vanderbilt if they were to win those final 2 games. I think beating Tennessee is huge. I think you need to finish the season with 2 losses. I think 3, you're absolutely done. But with 2 losses for Vandy this season, given their schedule going into it, I agree with that. I agree. For sure.
And 2 losses, or your best win would become the Week 14 matchup against Tennessee, because if you look at who Tennessee's lost to, 3 teams all inside the projected bracket right now, as we go ahead and take a look at what the projected bracket is right now. Oklahoma and Notre Dame, that would be a pretty interesting game.
Absolutely.
In the 8-9 spot. Texas Tech would host Tulane, the highest ranked group of 5 team, projected to win the American. Ole Miss hosting Miami. Miami's projected to win the ACC, which I'm a little bit interested in that, because Miami has 2 ACC losses, so they really need the cards to fall in their favor for them to win the ACC. That one's a little bit intriguing to me. And then Oregon would host Alabama there, and then the top 4 remains the same.
I'm so surprised that Miami is the team that is, I know it's probably just a placeholder at this point, but it is interesting to me how Miami is still the team that is looking to represent the ACC. And then obviously in the group of 5, there's some debates there as well about who should be representing them as well. I do think that both those teams, I think your ACC representative, I think your group of 5 representative this year, not every year, but this year, are probably done. They're probably one and done going into this college football playoff. So it almost to me is like, and I don't mean to say this, but almost to me it's like it feels like two wasted spots. Kind of like it feels like, okay, well they'll come in and they'll just go ahead and get beat early on, and then we'll really start the tournament there with 10 teams instead of 12.
Yeah, I mean we'll dive more into the college football playoff rankings in the second hour of our show. We do have a loaded show today, as we always do, and we'll take a look at some of the topics. Those Week 12 rankings are out. We'll go to South Carolina here next with Mariah Ross talking South Carolina, looking to finish 2025 strong. I don't think they really finished that last game strong, so we're going to try to put that one behind them there. And Kentucky fell to Michigan State at Madison Square Garden last night. We'll check in with our friends in Lexington, Kentucky, break that one down. And LSU's Michael Van Buren is going to burn his red shirt. A little bit of an interesting one there. And not the only quarterback that's going to burn his red shirt here this weekend.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we've had a situation at Auburn where they're going to help preserve a red shirt there with Ashton Daniels, not play him in the Mercer game. I think that the scheduling worked out perfectly there, because I think if they play another Power 4 team this week, you might not want to burn it, especially with the playoff potential, season berth there still alive. But coaches have to make a lot of interesting decisions, especially if you switch your quarterback one this late in the year.
Yeah, and we'll see how everything goes. I mean, I seriously thought Michael Van Buren might sit out this game, try to preserve that red shirt.
Yes.
I know he's a Mississippi State transfer, maybe could build the future around him. I know Frank Wilson's very high on him, and Garrett Nussmeier's still dealing with an injury that it feels like he's been dealing with all year. So
yes.
Bit interesting down there in Baton Rouge. There's definitely nothing going on by any means, but that's besides the point.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And we'll dive way more, like you said, into this college football playoff bracket coming in to this upcoming week, and what it means for the games that are ahead this week, and how it can affect the brackets coming up next week. And then, of course, as we get close to the end of the regular season and go to championship week. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head over to Spartanburg, South Carolina. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 1 on a Wednesday continues. We head over to Spartanburg, South Carolina. We've been calling Mariah Ross our favorite aunt on the show. And now, I mean, you've been an aunt officially for a while, but to be able to hold your nephew, how was that moment?
Oh my God, it was perfect. I know I'm a little bit biased, obviously, but he is the most perfect baby little angel. And it was so great to just finally get to meet him in person, hold him. I miss him so much already. Literally the second I walked out the door, I missed him. But it was so great to just be able to see him in person and check in on my brother and my sister-in-law. And they're doing great. They're obsessed, just like, we all are.
That's magical. Honestly, an unbelievable time. And really, I think the universe has a nice way of balancing things out, because you had the ultimate high of being able to hold your nephew and Jariah, mixed with what happened with South Carolina. Let's talk about this first. Obviously, Texas A&M came in as a top 5 team, still undefeated on the season. So it wasn't like you were giving up 27 points to a slouch. But from 30-3 and losing that football game, what has it done to this team from a psychological standpoint? Obviously, taking the opponent into consideration there as well, but losing that game by a point.
Yeah, well, the big message from Shane Beamer during the game is a lot of people are surprised about the score right now when they were up 30-3, of course. But he wasn't surprised, just based off of the way that they've been playing all season. They've been in it in the fourth quarter in a lot of these matchups, just not able to close it out. So he wasn't surprised about the massive lead that they built, but obviously not the way that you want to end a game, losing that 27-point lead and ending up losing the game 31-30. But Shane Beamer and, the rest of the guys on that staff are ever the optimists. He's looking at this game as an example of what they could be, that first half team that came out. But obviously the second half, you want to just completely erase that from your memory or learn from it is, the biggest thing that they could do at this point. A lot of the younger guys who will be coming back and rejoining the team next season, just to learn from that second half and remember what those feelings are so that you don't make those same mistakes ever again.
Yeah, and I feel like Shane Beamer might use this as a learning moment, because there was that clip that went around social media of him at halftime firing up the South Carolina faithful. Do you think that he's going to, temper his emotions a little bit? Because, he did kind of get humbled in a way.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just kind of the guy he is. Like, I don't know if there's any way at this point in his life to kind of control the emotion that he just exudes naturally. Like, he's just that kind of person. He did, however, say that they went into the locker room and there was no intention of, being like slowing down or taking your foot off the gas pedal. They wanted to keep going. They wanted to keep putting up the points, and obviously weren't able to do that. But there was no complacency during halftime, according to him. They wanted to keep going, and like you said, got very humbled in that second half for sure.
Right. Anytime we talk about these massive comebacks, the focal point is usually always on the comeback. And a lot of times I like to start with the way the game started, because the way the game started lets you know coach's preparation, lets you know the player's mindset going into it. Is there any positives that can be taken from the top of that game and saying, hey, this is what we're capable of. We're capable of putting up 30 points on a top 5 team. We're capable of still doing this despite all of our deficiencies elsewhere. We still have a chance to do this, and it was all about, just finishing strong. I mean, you hold them to one less touchdown. Obviously, you win the football game. Is there any talk on the other end of this that might be Pollyanna, glass half full, but like just saying, hey, look, our ceiling is pretty high given how we played in those first 30 minutes?
Absolutely. And just looking at the record, obviously you wouldn't think that this is a good team that has the amount of talent that it does. But like I said, have been in the game for a lot of fourth quarters throughout this season and have shown that they are a team that can compete. I think watching that first half, they looked like a playoff team. They looked like the kind of team that they were supposed to be and that everyone was expecting coming into the season. But obviously that second half was probably one of the more excruciating halves of football I have ever witnessed. And so that's, again, something that you want to throw away completely, learn from, but something that you want to wipe off the table and not have happen again. But watching that first half definitely can leave you optimistic for what the future of this team holds. It's a lot of young guys on the roster, a lot of talent. And so if they are able to come back, learn from those mistakes and play like the team that played in that first half, they absolutely have the potential to go on and be a successful team next year and potentially for years to come.
Absolutely. I know everybody wants to put this to bed, including you. But we have one more piece of sound to listen to from Shane Beamer about the second half.
Sunday during meetings, I think there was very much a sense of what just happened. I think we all feel that way. And then you look at the tape on Sunday and you're really able to to dive into it. Let's give A&M some credit for the way that their quarterback and their team played in the second half, and simply, did not play well enough or coach well enough in the second half. So we watched that tape on Saturday, but like always, and I know people don't want to hear it, and I really don't care, we went out on Sunday night and we had an awesome practice. And our guys responded just like I knew that we would respond.
All right, so now everything springs forward, and Coach is talking about using this, and you and Patrick just mentioned that earlier about using this as a spring forward. Obviously, there's one more tune-up game right before the big game against Clemson there. What are some of the ways that this team, both from a non-tangible, from a on-field perspective, preparation, what are some of the things you'll be looking for with this team as they go to play a team that they're obviously superior to?
Yeah, well, I think that not underestimating any opponent is, the big thing. And they do have a couple of seniors on this team who are going to be celebrating Senior Day this upcoming Saturday. So they obviously want to finish out the season strong, first by beating Coastal Carolina and then beating their in-state rival in Clemson. So those senior leaguers are really stepping up, leading the way, and not walking around defeated like they've already lost so much. They want to finish the season strong and just end it on a positive note. And a lot of guys also, trying to improve their draft stock, just trying to get good film for potential people that could be drafting them, potential teams that could be drafting them. So they are in no way slumping down or acting defeated or acting like, sad boys, as Shane Beamer called it. They still want to come out and finish the season strong, not underestimating any opponent because Coastal Carolina has been playing pretty well, but they definitely want to end the season on a good note.
Yeah, I don't want to skip past Coastal Carolina by any means because anything can happen with Sun Belt teams. But do you think if Shane Beamer were to pull off a win against rival Clemson at the end of the year, it'd kind of put some of this, struggles from this season to bed and be like, well, we just ended the season beating our own rival. Yeah, we didn't get to a bowl game, but we still beat our rival.
Absolutely. That game is huge. Everyone in the state will be watching. So to pull out a win in that one would be extremely beneficial to Shane Beamer moving forward into the next season. And just for the guys that are coming back, like I said, just to have that under their belt, the fact that, hey, maybe we didn't start the season strong, maybe the entire season wasn't what we expected, but if we can close it out with a win, beating Clemson, is always a plus for them. So if they could pull that off, that would absolutely, I think, set up 2026 to hopefully be a more successful year.
Yeah, you said everybody in the state will be watching. I found it really interesting as it relates to the schedule because South Carolina plays South Carolina State. Now they'll play Coastal Carolina, and then at the end of the season, of course, playing Clemson. How special is it to be able to have your marquee universities, whether it's an HBCU, whether it's a FCS, or whether it's an FB, a lower end FBS, or your other Power Four? How special is it for the state of South Carolina to kind of rally around one another and be able to still play these in-state games? Because I know a lot of other states, this one included, they won't play any teams from the state of Alabama. They'll always go elsewhere. How special and is important to it to be able to have not just the Clemson South Carolina game at the end, but the other two games be against in-state teams?
Yeah, that was something that Shane Beamer talked about early in the season, just the fact that they get to do that and the community that football is as a whole, whether you go for Coastal Carolina or for Clemson or South Carolina, just getting to come together as a state and participate in the community that is football. I think that's really important. And like you said, this is the third, they'll play 3 in-state teams this entire season. And I think that's something that Shane Beamer has mentioned he wants to continue doing during his time as head coach with the Gamecocks. So it's very important, and I think it's a very exciting final 2 weeks for Gamecock fans for sure.
Right. I've always thought that too. I've always thought if you're going to pay a bunch of money, if you're going to pay, north of $500,000 to $1 million to another school, why don't you just keep it inside your state and keep it inside the local economy? Because you have people from that area. Like coastal Carolina people will be coming, straight from the beach. They'll come, straight there.
It's like there. South Alabama with Auburn this year.
Yes. You keep all that money there in house. It always baffles me with schools that do not do that. And I don't mean to pick on Alabama, but Alabama is the one around here that they will never play an in-state team. We've seen Texas do it. We've seen the Ohio teams do it. I'll get on a high horse about that because I feel very strongly, and I love the way that Shane Beamer and South Carolina are doing that. Of course, like Patrick said, we obviously don't want to overlook the Chanticleers, but looking ahead to that Clemson game and turning it to the Clemson side now. Obviously got a big win this past weekend, and Dabo was loud about it too after the game, and said basically we're here, and he's talking the way he did when he was hoisting national championships. What do you make of that big win as they kind of start to gear up towards the end of their season?
Well, just like South Carolina, I mean, they're trying to finish the season strong, and picking up a top 20 win was obviously a big way to continue forward throughout the season. They only have a couple games left as well. And just like South Carolina, they want to beat their in-state rival. And so they're coming off obviously more momentum, picking up that win. But yeah, like you said, Dabo is, a very emotional coach as well, and gets very loud, hypes his team up. So it's going to be an exciting matchup for sure. I think when you're looking at both of these teams, South Carolina's defense, I would say in a lot of ways is maybe superior to Clemson's defense. Just watching the games and kind of examining things, they've been a little bit more consistent, obviously blowing a couple big leads, but beyond that, they've been a pretty consistent unit, have been able to generate a lot of takeaways. But looking at Clemson's offense and what they have with Cade Klubnik playing so well since his return from injury, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting game, and the crowd at Williams-Brice is going to pack that place, and it's going to be very exciting, I'm sure.
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about the coaching searches around here, and we'll get to the other side of this here in a moment. But now that the window is officially closed for Virginia Tech, I had not heard Shane Beamer's name really connected with any other specific job outside of that one because of his family. Is there any sense of just relief that he hasn't said anything official, but is there any sense of relief from fans out there that wanted Shane Beamer to continue to build on what he has now that James Franklin is officially the head coach there at Virginia Tech?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of fans didn't really expect him to go anywhere. He's been talking for so long about the fact that he loves this team. He does not want to go anywhere. He loves being in Columbia. His family loves being in Columbia. So I don't know that there was a huge sense of worry, but it definitely closes the door on all of the rumors and everything that could come up with that. So it's nice to know that he is at least not going there. Now, obviously, his job here, I wouldn't say is in question, but you do definitely want to see him pick up these final 2 wins of the season just for a little bit of reassurance, I would say. But he definitely is talking like he's going to be there for several years in Columbia for several years to come. So we shall see.
Absolutely. Speaking of James Franklin, Dabo was asked about James Franklin. Here are his thoughts on the new Virginia Tech head coach.
He's a winner. He's a winner. He's won everywhere he's been. He's a good football coach. I've known James for a long time. I have a good relationship with him. Certainly be great for our league, and I think it's a great fit. Similar recruiting footprint as far as what he's been a part of for a long time, and I'm happy for he and Fumi, his wife. I mean, they're again. I see him. I've spent a week with them every February for 15 years. So I've known him a long time, but he's a winner. I mean, I know people. He hadn't won the championship. He was a play away last year from being in the national championship, but he's a proven football coach, and I think they made a great hire. I think he'll do a great job. Again, great for the league, great for Virginia Tech, and good for the kids that he'll have opportunity to coach.
As somebody who follows the ACC a lot, now getting a guy like James Franklin, who's been in the SEC at Vanderbilt, of course, been in the Big Ten with Penn State. What's the overall sense from ACC coaches? We heard from Dabo just then, but for somebody who covers the league, what's the overall consensus about a guy like James Franklin with his pedigree coming over to Blacksburg?
Well, you just mentioned it there. His pedigree obviously speaks for itself. He has an incredible resume. And so I think maybe not putting teams on notice so much because Virginia Tech does have a lot that they need to work on. But it's great just to see a coach who has this kind of resume come to this conference and continue to expand and continue to make it a contender as we move forward with this new college football playoff landscape and all of the things that change in college football. It's great to see someone with his resume join the conference and potentially just add to the success that it has attained so far.
Absolutely. And Mariah,
yes,
I'm so glad you got to hold your nephew Jariah, and thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Thank you. See you too soon.
Absolutely. That is Mariah Ross joining us from Spartanburg. I know that was a really happy weekend for her on one side, on the family side, and then being able to come back and help soothe the rest of the sports team as they ponder that loss.
Everything's just got to equal out.
Exactly.
And
yes.
It'll be a very interesting Palmetto Bowl in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And we'll have her back on to preview that big time rivalry. So it's going to be an interesting one because both teams have a lot to play for, even though they're out of pretty much anything.
Yep, and both teams have a lot of positive things to think about as they go into that game. Of course, they have a tune-up game right before that one. Coming up next, we will head over to the Bluegrass State and check in with our friends in Kentucky. That comes your way next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we roll on here this Wednesday. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you, and we head over to Kentucky. We got a verbal lesson about how to pronounce one name.
Yes.
You and I have been doing this perfectly, by the way. Happy to be joined by Colby Wilson. And Colby, I know you are UK and it's Big Blue Nation over there, but for everybody who does not know, I think Patrick and I, we've learned this the city that holds the Kentucky Derby is pronounced
Louisville.
Exactly.
Yes,
Louisville. Yes.
Louisville. Like, you got to kind of like swallow your tongue a little bit.
None of this Louis.
Yeah.
I don't know who Louis is.
They will get on you over here for saying Louisville. So I learned pretty quick.
Exactly. Number one, thanks for joining us. And number two, let's talk Kentucky basketball now. We said during the break, it felt like a fake out. It felt like everybody's attention was going to go from football to basketball. But then after a couple of rough ones on the court, it might be football might be the main thing. But let's talk basketball now because it's most recently on our minds. A big one over at Madison Square Garden. Against a really, really good Michigan State basketball team that came out red hot from outside. What'd you make of Kentucky's, not only the game in and of itself, but the matchup in the way they played?
I mean, I think it was a shock to everyone. Going into this game, I would say that most people favored Kentucky just with their pace and their shot-making ability, and then they go on the floor, and it's the opposite of what you see. It's actually Michigan State who controls the pace, who's making shots that it actually never made coming into this game. And again, Kentucky just looked not like itself. I think the hard part is people are now questioning, well, what is Kentucky this year? Because I don't think any of us have quite seen that yet.
Absolutely. For Kentucky, it feels like this team seemingly underachieving regarding to a lot of people, because I hate to use the word underachieving when you play a 35 game season and we're now 4 games in. But I know people there. Obviously, they bleed blue, and it's basketball all the time. What's the general consensus of this year's team? Obviously, knowing that there's still so much runway left.
You know, it's funny because here at Kentucky, it doesn't matter how many games you have left, whether you have 1 or 17, they want you to win, and that is the expectation. So it really does feel like when it rains, it pours. I mean, it feels like the world is coming to a crumble for Big Blue Nation and Kentucky fans here. I mean, you see what you would expect from fans. You see the fire Mark Pope. You see just complete chaos because it's not the expectation, especially for a team that the numbers flying around that they spent $22 million on this roster. So when you throw in a number as big as that, it's also like, well, what is going on? Because this is not $22 million that we're seeing on the court right now.
It's like the whole Alabama thing with Kalen DeBoer. The expectations are so high coming in. But speaking of a guy that did have expectations coming into this season, Otega Oweh, preseason SEC Player of the Year. It kind of just feels like to me he hasn't really found his footing yet this year. What have you made of his play so far?
Yeah, I mean, Patrick, you're right on the money. It's the same thing that everyone's thinking here. Almost like, what is Otega Oweh doing? How is he even contributing? You go and watch these games, and he hasn't even been the standout guy really at all throughout the few games they've had this season. Obviously, he had the 12 against Michigan State, but in terms of just being the projected SEC Player of the Year and being the go-to guy that is taking over, nobody has seen that. It's definitely been a shock to most people here. And, you know, it was kind of crazy after the Michigan State game when he had his press conference. He just said that the one thing holding him back is his own personal effort, which can be a big red flag for somebody with so many projected accolades going into this year to come out and say, at the mecca of college basketball and on the national stage, it's effort that's holding you back. That's something that you personally can control. And so I think that was also kind of a little nerve-wracking for Big Blue Nation, and I'm sure the rest of the country.
Is in your opinion, and I'm going to kind of expand this argument or expand this topic a little bit further, we've seen the hype when it relates to college athletes as it relates to a guy like Arch Manning, a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, who came in, threw for over 4,000 yards last year, and I know I'm going cross-sport, but for a guy that has so much hype, do you think it just takes a little while, it takes 9, 10, 11, 12 games for all of these young guys to match those expectations? I think you used the word that it might be a little concerning that he's using the word effort because it's something you can't control. Or do you think that this is like a bigger thing where he actually morphs into the player that he's supposed to be? Or is this something that you should be more concerned about if you are Big Blue Nation?
I think people are concerned because he should be the elite player that this should be his peak time now. Yeah. He obviously tested the NBA waters, didn't know if he was going to pull his name out of the draft, ended up pulling his name out of the draft, I'm sure, because he was hearing from NBA teams, you got A, B, C, D to work on. So I think it is concerning because also the way we saw Otega Oweh last year is not the Otega Oweh we're seeing this year. He's looked like he struggled a lot more. The shots that once fell are not falling now. And overall, he just doesn't look like himself from an effort, from an attitude perspective. So I think if there's any time to lose your mind for Big Blue Nation and the rest of the country, I think they have every right to do it right now because he should be at his elite level of play in these moments.
Absolutely. And Coach Mark Pope, considering he put the same blame on himself for everything that has happened there. We'll turn the table to another coach in football with Mark Stoops and what this football program is doing right now. Obviously, coming up with a big game this week against Vanderbilt for Kentucky fans who now have their eyes on maybe a bowl game. What's the consensus over there with the slight turnaround here for this football program?
Again, I think this fan base is just complete shock across the board. You have Kentucky football who was 2-5 going against Tennessee just like a little over a month ago to now you have 5 games, and if you go on the road and beat Vanderbilt or Louisville, you are headed to a bowl game. And then you have Kentucky basketball who obviously is not getting wins you would expect. So I think it's just chaos here, but definitely excitement coming from this football program. especially just talking to the coaches and players in these press conferences leading up to the game on Saturday. Of course, they're trying to stay level-headed, but they certainly know what's at stake going into this game on Saturday. But the excitement is there. I think for them, it's just sticking to what got them to this point. Obviously, something has been working with the play of Cutter Boley, and the defense has been pretty solid this whole year. So I think it's just sticking to what they know and hoping that they can come out with some type of win.
I think I said on this show before the Auburn-Kentucky game that the loser would probably not have a coach come the next day, and that did end up being true. And unfortunately for Hugh Freeze, that he was the loser in that scenario. But then for Kentucky to come out and pretty much destroy Florida right after that start of that 3-game win streak, do you think Mark Stoops has coached himself off the hot seat for this year and he'll return next year?
I think he's headed in the right direction. Obviously, the buyout is the big thing as to why he hasn't been fired and all of those things. But, at Kentucky, if we're being honest, what you need to do is go to a bowl game, win 6 games, and beat Louisville. If you do that, you're in a good spot. And so he could do that. He could win 6 games. That could happen in these next 2 games, and you still have Louisville, of course, on the road. Any rivalry is always a tough matchup, and it's always up in the air. But I believe if he wins 6 games and beats Louisville, why would you fire him at that point? It's kind of like you've done what you've needed to do. It almost looked bad at that point, I think. And then, of course, if you lose out these 2 games and don't make a bowl, then I believe, yes, he is still on the hot seat for sure.
Absolutely. The beginning of the season, something that struck me was the comments around Mark Stoops. And it almost felt like the internet was making fun of him a little bit, saying motivated Mark Stoops and all of that as far as it relates. And honestly, at that point, before the winning streak, it felt like he could have just given up on this team and given up on this season and given up on this fan base that was making fun of him early on. What does this late run say about what he is as a coach, whether he keeps this job or not? Because I agree with your standards. He needs to reach a certain threshold, and probably winning one of the next 2 will help do that. But his overall standing to you as it relates to the way this team is playing towards the end of the year is what?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Mark Stoops because he could have broke in a lot of different spaces throughout this season. The whole fan base was against him. The whole country talking about him. Every press conference, everything he was at, it was always I'm not going to flinch. This team loves each other. We're going to get better every single day. And he had that. That's exactly what has happened. You have not seen any emotions from him. You haven't even seen a lot of sadness, a lot of anything. And the players even have come out and said, when we lost against Tennessee and we're 2-5, it's the same Mark Stoops when we just blew out Florida.
Yeah.
He is who he is. He's been doing this for a long time. So this also isn't his first rodeo. But I have a lot of respect because he's known what this team is capable of. He's stuck with them. They've stuck with him. They love him. If you hear their press conferences, this team really loves Mark Stoops. And so it makes sense that exactly what they've said, they've done.
Colby, I don't want to overlook the Vanderbilt game, but I mean, as you mentioned, as long as Stoops can get to a bowl game, win the bowl game, beat Louisville, then he'll keep his job. Well, they've got Louisville next week. And do you think there's going to be a little bit of added motivation with the whole Vince Marrow leaving for Louisville this past offseason?
Absolutely. I think coach speak, they're never going to come out loud and say, just like when he left, it was all love him. He's been great. This is part of the business. You move on. It is what it is. But I think underneath all the hard coach come out to the media part, there's probably certainly some extra motivation. And at the end of the day, it's Louisville. That's your rival. It's one of the greatest rivalries in the history of college sports. And so I definitely think there's going to be some extra emotions going into that one for sure.
Absolutely. Stoops' defense is getting ready for Diego Pavia and putting an end to this Heisman campaign. Here's the coach.
In some ways it does. But in others, when plays break down, there's no coaching that, on either side. There is, as far as plastering, finishing coverage, finishing rushes, of course you could coach and build on that. But when these quarterbacks create, man, they just create. And the things that Diego does, that's, again, you've heard me say it many times, but that's between him and God.
Between him and God.
Yeah, between him and God is what he said there at the end. And I love Stoops is like just the way he carries himself. Whether it's a big game, whether it's an FCS opponent, he kind of carries himself in the same way. This is one of the first times, actually probably the first time ever, where the Kentucky-Louisville football game comes after the Kentucky-Louisville basketball game. Is there any sense of, hey, let's get some revenge for our basketball brethren?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, everyone, when you think Kentucky, you think Kentucky basketball. That's just how it goes. But at the end of the day, when you're a fan for anything. And especially when it comes to a rivalry, whether it's women's golf, men's golf, lacrosse, whatever, you name it, they want to beat you. That's just how it goes. So I definitely think there'll be some extra motivation. And I think Louisville fans will definitely be feeding off that basketball win in the stadium, probably chirping a little bit, deservingly so. That was a great game for sure.
You're the first Kentuckian from the Bluegrass State that I've had the ability to ask this to. What was the overall sense of the basketball game being played so early? Because I've been in the area late December. Everybody's geared up. It's right after Christmas, getting ready for Kentucky-Louisville basketball, right before New Year's, right before New Year's Eve. What was the general consensus with it being so early in the calendar this year?
I can tell you no one liked it.
Yeah.
No one liked it that it was that early. No one liked it that it was a Tuesday night. There was a lot of people complaining about that one. And you also, have your ordinary argument of, well, this team doesn't know who they are yet. It's so early. So, we're going to play Louisville in the tournament, and then they'll see like who we really are. But just in general, from beat writers here who have been, covering Kentucky for 20 plus years, they even were pretty thrown off by the decision. But I ultimately think it comes down to TV and money and all the that go into that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Colby, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for your time today here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Colby Wilson joining us there from Kentucky, Big Blue Nation there. I kind of thought that. I didn't want to project it, but I kind of thought what Colby said was the case, that not a lot of fans want this game to be played this early in November.
Yeah, it just doesn't really feel right because, it is so early in the season.
Yeah.
These teams, that's why you play the cupcake teams early on in the season, so that way you can get your feet under you. Right. I know I saw, I don't mean to go back to my own ACC experience, but I remember I think Syracuse played Virginia the first game of the season. And I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? Yeah. Why are we starting off with ACC play early on? I seriously think the final of that game was 62-46.
Yeah.
It was just awful basketball. And
right.
It's like we can't be playing these games like first game of the season. It's just you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, exactly. Especially these marquee games. You want to be, you have to feet wet just a little bit before you dive into all of that. Coming up next year on Southeast Sports Plus, we have our overreactions. Stay with us. Closing up hour number 1 on Southeast Sports Plus, we've had a couple of great guests on, Mariah Ross and Colby Wilson, joining us from South Carolina and Kentucky, respectively, and got a chance to break down the college football playoff poll. We'll do a lot more of that coming up in our second hour. But in one of our Wednesday staples here, we have our overreactions.
Wednesday staple it is. It's hard to believe that we're already in week 13 of the college football season. So these are probably not as much of an overreaction anymore. But I mean, we still push the envelope here a little bit, and I'll get us right into it here.
Okay.
Lane Kiffin, this might not actually be an overreaction. He's taking trolling to a new level. I still think, again, I feel like my mind changes on him leaving every day, but so does his. So therefore, don't come at me for it, people. I mean, he can't even figure out what he wants. But I'm telling you what, if he does stay, though, this has to be the greatest troll job in all of sports.
No question.
In the history, actually, I'll say it, ever.
Yes.
In the entirety of humanity, this has to be the biggest troll I've ever seen. And I'm here for it because this is honestly, it's giving us great entertainment.
Yes.
He knows he's the center of attention right now. He knows he has a spotlight, and he wants to do anything he can to, stir it up. And it's got to be one of the most entertaining coaching spotlights, I'd say, in recent memory.
And he does this funny thing where he gets the spotlight without asking for it, but he knows what it takes to get it. So it's a weird kind of coy thing that he's doing. But you're right. It is, number one, a great troll job, but even number two, if he ends up staying and doing nothing, it's a troll job for everybody else. He's either trolling Ole Miss if he leaves, or he's been trolling everybody else. So it kind of works out both ways.
I think he's doing all this so that way he can just keep on reeling the money in for NIL. I think that's probably his logic if he does stay. It's so that way Ole Miss does get the NIL it needs. I mean, it's doing – Ole Miss is having a great year, obviously, this year, and – I know he wants to have that sustainable for years to come. I know DJ Lagway was spotted with the head recruiter of Ole Miss after the game, I don't know what's going on there. Maybe a little bit more trolling or, Lane trying to get DJ to come to the SIP, as he likes to say. But keeping it rolling here. Can we please, and I'll talk about this more in the next hour, can we please get North Texas in the college football playoff?
Interesting.
I don't understand what the hype is about Tulane. I'm sorry. John Summerall said it himself. They are an average football team. Why are we still putting them in the college football playoff rankings when some of their losses, it's like they don't even want to make it.
Right.
North Texas, again, I'll dive into this more in a little bit, only has one loss, and it was just a one-off against a team at the time that was playing pretty well in South Florida.
Right.
We need to get the Mean Green in the college football playoff.
Do you think it's basically because they don't necessarily respect the conference? I mean, not necessarily respect the conference, but it's like you just respect Tulane's path more because they did play a Duke.
Maybe.
And they did, obviously they're playing I would think, of the group of five, they're playing the tougher schedule of the group of five.
I mean, but still, you lose by 35 to Ole Miss.
Right.
That doesn't help you,
That's
even saying that you played a tougher schedule.
Right.
And they don't even have a win over the number one team in the conference right now, and North Texas does, that being Navy.
Right.
So it doesn't really make any sense to me. Again, I'll dive more into it in the second hour. Kentucky men's basketball, you guys, I'm sorry, you are on my fraud watch right now. You guys are fraudulent.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Mark Pope, I know you're a fantastic coach, but I bet you would even agree with me right now. You don't even know what you're getting. How can we say a team with the preseason player of the year just losing the 2 Power 4 games and him being absent is not a fraudulent team? I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. Okay, we'll go with my overreactions here coming up. I have always a welcome to the Heisman House.
Yes,
this time it goes to Gunnar Stockton, the Georgia quarterback, flying under the radar, so to speak. I really like Gunnar Stockton.
5 total touchdowns this past week.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
I think
that's incredible.
That's the reason why I'm putting him in the Heisman House this time, because he's not only done it with his steady play, but he also did it with the statistics. Like you mentioned, those 5 touchdowns in a big game this past week against Texas. My next one kind of runs in line with yours a little bit. They've been tweaking the college football playoff.
Yes.
We knew that. They might tweak it with the numbers, but in case they leave it at 12, let's just do one thing. Let's make it to where it's just the top 12 there, because I am so sick. Fair. I am sick of the talk of maybe this ACC team. This year's ACC team will be a wasted spot in the college football playoff. It will be absolutely wasted. I understand what they're trying to do with the money, but it'll be a wasted spot. My final one why are we still questioning Sark? This is not an overreaction, but this is me just putting something out there just for the future, saying there might be some fire here because it seems like a lot of smoke. He was asked once again about his future, having to deny it, denied a lot of NFL talk and everything else. Why do we keep questioning if Sark is going to stay at Texas? We will see if there's fire there. We will see you coming up in our second hour here on Southeast Sports.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
You know, I'm not going to comment on message board chatters, tweets, sources. I've maintained with you and our team that my complete focus is on the task at hand. Last week, people were tired of me because I couldn't win the big game. People had me meeting with my team and telling them that I was going to another school, none of which were true. Now this week it's a different story because we scored the second most points in the SEC this year at 49. So, all of this stuff is just a distraction. I would like to remind everybody, including our fans, we absolutely love Mizzou. We love what we're building. We've been to 6 straight bowl games. We've got the sellout streak going. Our administration has been nothing but phenomenal to me. The alignment that we have with our president.
Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here on a Wednesday. Coach Eli Drinkwitz has been square in the middle of a lot of the chatter around some of the open head coaching positions, and there are some marquee ones. I know that Virginia Tech has already been filled, but still others that are out there and open. Coach Drinkwitz and company, as he said, put nearly 50 points up this past week, and next thing you know, he's the next hottest guy out there, laying down the hammer, not necessarily saying that I'm staying, but also coming down and saying that we love what we're building here. This is a really interesting scenario here, Patrick, because I think that with Coach Drinkwitz, he understands, I think, something that you've been saying for a long time, that he has the cachet at Mizzou to be there for a long time. And all he has to do, in my opinion, is look at what Indiana's building and understand that he doesn't have to leave Mizzou. You have the talent there, you have the cachet, and you have the buy-in for everybody else. I'm actually on his side when he is defiant about wanting to leave or about possibly leaving, because to me, his job is as good as any other, and he's proven that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think he will leave, because I think he really does like what he's doing over there in Columbia, the other Columbia. I think he is really starting to build a program here at Mizzou. Now, the only thing is, could he understand now maybe like, hey, you know, I keep on trying to win here, but now I've seen the last 2 years, I kind of have the talent.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I kind of had the talent in Luther Burden, but could not get over the hump. This year, kind of had the talent in Ahmad Hardy and Bo Pribula, but Bo gets hurt, and then it's just Ahmad Hardy now, which, I mean, and just we talked about what he did this past weekend. Just absolutely incredible. I feel like that could be the only thing that if he comes to the realization, it's like, man, you know, I'm really trying to win here, but I just can't do it. Then I could see him leaving, but I don't think he's ready to make that decision yet.
Absolutely. I think that for most places, there was once a thought that there was a ceiling, and there was a ceiling on a place like Missouri. There was a ceiling on a place like Mississippi State or Ole Miss in this pedigree. There was a ceiling on a place like Indiana, and I just don't think so anymore. And these coaches are now proving it. And to me, whenever you have laid roots in those areas, and you also, because Coach Drink, keep in mind, Coach Drink was on Auburn staff that won a national championship. So it's not like it's a guy who's never been to the mountain. He's been to the mountain, so he's like, okay, I know what needs to be in place in order for us to get where we need to go. I've been at those places, and Missouri has that. And I think that if you're a Missouri fan, you could rest a lot easier this week, understanding you have a coach that has that mindset going into it.
Look, I mean, they destroyed Mississippi State last week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, absolutely destroyed them. Ahmad Hardy had an incredible game, and they're putting all that money into the stadium to do all the renovations on where the lawn side was. Now that they're adding, I believe they're adding bleachers, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like a ghost town right now. But, I mean, Mizzou is trying to put money into the program, but a lot of programs are also saying, hey, we need to start putting money in too. So there's just so much money going around. And, I mean, yeah, the house settlement's going to help a little bit, but I just don't see it still being fully capped, if you know what I mean.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is a Missouri team with a really interesting game coming up, as they'll play Oklahoma, looking to play a spoiler and, you know, continue to try to elevate where they're going to go play in the postseason. You heard Coach Drink. They've made 6 straight bowls, looking to make a 7th bowl coming up this week, coming up this season as well. And they have one of the best running backs in the country, as you said, in order to do so. Have a good athletic program overall, good basketball over there, good baseball over there, and good football there as well. And we've talked about our staples here on this show. We have top 5, we have overreactions, and we talk about something that we do every now and again, and that's what we're going to uncork this time.
Yeah, so we're going to do trivia. We haven't done trivia here in a little bit. I have one question here, and, you know, all of this coach talk has got me thinking, you know, what is the record for the most head coaching vacancies at once in the SEC?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would think that it would have to have been when there was 14 teams. I remember there was a time. Oh man, it had to be. I'm thinking it had to be early Nick Saban at one point, because I thought that everybody was firing.
Early Nick Saban.
Yeah, I think everybody was firing their coaches all at one time, and you had some that are let go, some mutually let go. And I can't think of.
Keep in mind this is not only just firings, but also because
like
coaches take other jobs and retiring. Yes.
Correct. I'm going to go I think I want to go like 2008.
2008, and you want to take a guess at how many were open?
I'm going to say probably 5.
Well, you got one of 2 right.
Okay. What I get
2017, right? But 5 were open in 2017. Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee. Tennessee fired Butch Jones. Texas A&M, right. And Dan Mullen took he left Mississippi State.
That's right. Wow.
So we're I think, in my opinion, we are on pace to break that this year.
Okay,
because there's 4 open already.
Right. And you heard Colby talk about possibly if they finish 5 and 7, if they lose their last 2 games, maybe.
Or possibly one of these 2.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay, so I guess would it have, if they go, for example, let's just say Drink goes to Penn State.
Oh man.
That would make it 6. But if Lane goes from Ole Miss to Florida, it has one open, but it also closes another one, another vacancy. That is really interesting though, because we have seen a lot of cross-conference, interconference.
Yes.
A changeover here over the last few years. I remember Will Muschamp. He had a crossover there. He was Florida's coach for a while, South Carolina's coach for a while. And you just have had that. 4 open right now, possibly 5, and a possible 6th. That could be really interesting. And like I said in my overreactions, there is a lot of talk about Sark.
Yes.
There is a lot of talk about Sark.
What is going on right now?
I have no idea.
But seriously, who do you think is more likely to leave, Lane Kiffin or Eli Drinkwitz?
Oh, and I
mean, it seems like an easy question.
Yes.
On the front.
Right. Okay.
But then again, with how much Lane has been trolling everybody.
Yes.
Elite levels of trolling.
For sure. Elite levels of trolling, number 1. But also, 2, I think I have no happiness meter, but I'm going to put a happiness meter on both these guys.
Yeah.
I think from a happiness standpoint, Coach Drink is a little higher than where Lane is. Lane is, of course, super ambitious. He wants to win a national championship and everything else. And both guys are highly competitive. But what I'm saying is that, like, I do remember, I think when I think of Lane Kiffin, I think more of his days when he was on the West Coast, bigger city. I just think of Lane as being bigger. And I think that this is a good resting place for him at Ole Miss. But to me, and that's a great picture to tee this thing up. And I don't even know where I'm making these connections. But something to me about a Florida coach that wears a visor, that's loud, that has an offensive mind, that has a playbook that's super long, super creative. That reminds me of Steve Spurrier, and that reminds me of Florida, and that reminds me of what I think Lane Kiffin would be perfect walking into. Now, you could look at Eli Drinkwitz and say, well, he also has a visor, and he also has a nice offense as well. And I would get the parallels. I just think that I think Lane to Florida is one thing. And call me crazy. There's one other option I think that.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I'm thinking. Let me put odds on this. I think like 1 in 300.
Oh.
How about Lane back to the NFL? How about Lane to the New York Giants?
Oh, brother!
And get right back with his quarterback in Jackson Dart. Get with Malik Neighbors. Get with a really talented defensive line. Get with Cam Scatterboo. In a place where if you win there, they absolutely love you. And unlike Ole Miss, unlike Florida, where you have to continually change your roster, he doesn't have to be the transfer portal king anymore.
That's true.
He could just be the free agency king.
But here's the thing. His personality resonates with college people so well that it's just impossible.
Yeah.
In my opinion, impossible for him to leave. And I know all the talk is around, his family went to Gainesville. His family was spotted in Baton Rouge, which we'll go to after the break, see what happened there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Kim Mulkey said, Lane Kiffin was, he was at the game the other day, like stuff like that, just trying to add to the trolling.
I love it.
But Ole Miss fans, I think you don't have to worry until he says they'll have to carry me out in a pine box.
Yeah. As soon as he says that, he's gone. He's gone.
He's gone.
And he might be gone to Auburn. It might be Florida off the list, LSU off the list. He might do exactly what Tubbs did and take his talents over to Florida, especially if he says that. We talked about Drink earlier. Missouri's got a big one coming up this week against the Oklahoma Sooners. Coach Drink talked about the matchup.
Yeah, being familiar with Coach Venable's defenses at our time at NC State going against him, they've always been very multiple, very aggressive. They do a great job of taking away what your strengths are and trying to get you to play left-handed. This defense is no different. They've got elite players, elite defensive ends. I think both the R. Mason Thomas obviously is an exceptional player, and they haven't had him. They didn't have him last game, but Taylor Wynn, number 44, jumps off the tape the way he plays. Kendall Daniels, the transfer from Okie State, is a tremendous player. Robert Spears Jennings at safety and Boganowski are like heat-seeking missiles looking for contact. So I think it matches their style. Coach Venables always talks about having a 4th-and-1 mentality. It feels like their defense matches that intensity at all times. So it's a tough challenge. I think their defensive line, obviously with the emergence of David Stone, has been really critical for them. They're better in the trenches, I think, than they've been in the past, and specifically because of R. Mason, Taylor, and David.
So good stuff there from Coach Drinkwitz. He laid down the hammer early that he might be possibly staying there at Missouri. Big one this week that could spoil a lot of chances there for the Sooners to make it to the college football playoff. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head over to Louisiana. Is Lane Kiffin there? Is he not there? We check in with Kim Mulkey. We check in with Chester Boucher and all of our friends from the state. Coming up next. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Hour number 2 rolls on with one of our favorite people on God's green earth, Chesson Boucher, joining us from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I mean that with all sincerity. Our conversations off the air are a show within itself, and not to mention what we have on. So much to dive into, not only with LSU, but also with the coaching search, because I feel like LSU seems to be kind of in the center of this whole thing, along with Florida, about where Lane Kiffin stands right now. We'll get into all that in just a moment. But first, had a chance to take some time to watch the young gun, so to speak, have his entire week, have him be the starter, him be the guy. From Van Buren's perspective, what did you see from him and just the way this offense looked?
I think he came out of the gate. There were some jitters. There were a little nerves, which I understand your first true start in SEC play in Tiger Stadium. So I get that completely. I think he settled in nicely. I think he, again, brought another dimension to this offense that he's, dangerous with his legs. He made a third down conversion that we haven't seen Nuss make, but that's because Nuss is more of a pocket passer. He can get maybe a first down with short yardage, but you're not going to make a 35-yard gain, and I think that's the difference there. The only knock on Van Buren is just his accuracy isn't great, but I think because of his mobility, he kind of makes up in different areas. And again, he didn't get the first team reps for a majority of the week. Nuss went down, I think it was on Thursday. So then all of a sudden Thursday rolls around, Friday's walkthrough, and you're asking him to be a starter on Saturday. So it comes with the territory. But I liked his confidence. I liked how the team really rallied around him, and they were pumped for him. And I was impressed with Nuss kind of being there and supporting him, and even in warm-ups was telling him kind of, hey, you got this, and it just showed his leadership. So I feel like the whole team rallied around him, and I think he should be the starter. Nuss is hurt. He's not going to get better without surgery, so I think Nuss needs to make sure he's healthy and get ready for the combine, because he's got a lot of work to do after this season.
I feel like the fans kind of echo that sentiment. Do you think that they were excited to see Michael? Because from what I heard, there was a loud ovation when he was introduced in the starting lineup in the stadium there on Saturday.
Yeah, Tiger fans are not shy of expressing themselves. They're going to tell you how they feel and what they like and what they don't like, and it's kind of been the past few weeks in Tiger Stadium. They wanted to see Michael Van Buren. It's not a knock on Nuss. It's that Nuss is not who he was just a year ago. He hasn't been healthy. I respect him for trying to battle through it and show his toughness and his grit, but when you have somebody like Michael Van Buren who is fully capable of going out there and getting you a win, I think you have to kind of give him the keys to the car and see what he's made of. And I think Tiger fans really enjoyed getting the opportunity to see what Michael Van Buren was all about, because before we had only seen him play against Southeastern. So yeah, Tiger fans were stoked when he was the starter. He was out there and kind of did his thing, and then he got the game ball with Frank Wilson. So it was a good sight to see, a positive sight. And even yesterday, player interviews, Michael Van Buren said, this is where I want to be regardless of who they bring in as a head coach, and saying, this is where he wants to be. So I think that's promising. There's definitely room to grow, but I think a good first start.
Yeah, you mentioned Frank Wilson, and I wanted to get the crowd's reaction from that, so to speak, from your perspective, because it feels like this has been a program not only starving for a win because they lost 3 straight going into it, but just starving for something to root for from a leadership standpoint. Because in your words, the governor situation felt ridiculous. The AD situation felt ridiculous. This felt like the first time somebody in a leadership position looked competent in their role. And Wilson did a good job not only leading the team, but leading the team through a new starting quarterback and then into this game. How happy were people for him knowing his ties to the state?
Yeah, there was nothing but love for Coach Wilson from Victory Hill when he walked down the hill as being the interim head coach for the first time. Fans were going crazy for him. He's been through a lot. This is his second stint at LSU. He kind of embodies what LSU is, that swagger, that determination, and that grit, that punch you in the mouth. We're not going to take anything from anybody. And so I think that's kind of what LSU has been lacking under the leadership of Brian Kelly. I've said it before on this show, under Brian Kelly, this team, I don't want to say soft, but they were more of a finesse team. They weren't we're going to run it down your throat. We're going to power I formation. We're going to really make you earn it. It was more of like, we're going to air it out and kind of see how the cards fall. And that's just not been LSU aside from that 2019 national championship team. It's always been built around amazing 4- and 5-star running backs who kind of you run it to open up the passing game. And so I think he brought back that old school LSU mentality of just like, you're going to have to come out and it's going to take you and everybody else to beat us. And it's cool to see, and the players even talked about it, how much it meant to them for him to get his first win as the interim coach and to do it. I mean, it wasn't a pretty game whatsoever, and it was early as can be, and the crowd sucked in the beginning, and then they came through after getting a few Bloody Marys in, and they were there. So it was fun to see kind of how Tiger Stadium embraced him, and especially after that win.
Jessa, I want to go back to Michael Van Buren here for a second, because I feel like we're in like that second red shirt watch part of the year. I know the first 4 games, that's what I would consider as the first red shirt watch. Now that we've gotten past the halfway point and towards the end of the season, maybe some quarterback changes have been made. Obviously, in LSU's case, Michael Van Buren is taking over for Garrett Nussmeier while he's hurt. Were you a little surprised that he decided to burn his red shirt here at the end of the season, or no, because Nuss is hurt?
I was surprised at first. For me, I thought Frank Wilson would definitely kind of try to rein it in and say, hey, if this is going to be our guy next year, we'd rather have an extra year with him. So when I found out that Michael Van Buren was going to be the starter, I was like, oh, okay, maybe Frank is, trying to figure out if he's the better option. And then, of course, we found out about Nuss getting hurt. And then talking to Michael Van Buren yesterday at player interviews, he was like, you know what, I'm willing to do whatever I can for this team. I've been unselfish. I came here as a backup knowing that I was going to learn under Nuss, and now I get the opportunity to be a starter. He basically said, I'm not going to not do everything that I can for this team, and I'm going to be the leader. And they asked me to do that, and absolutely, I didn't think twice about it, because I want to go out there and lead this team to a win, and that's what I was able to do. And so to me, it's a lot of respect, especially this day and age. It would be easy for him to be like, nah, dog, I'm good, and look for, somewhere to go next year just because of the situation. So I respect him in that regard. And again, putting this team, saying, hey, I got you, let's go win this game. It shows his leadership, and I definitely respect that.
Absolutely. Of course, this upcoming game against Western Kentucky is the last game there in Death Valley. We got a chance to hear from Coach Frank Wilson about Senior Day.
Yeah, so we have 28 guys that are going to participate in Senior Day. Don't quote me on the number, but we got quite a few of them that have been here 3 years and more. But we do have an influx of some of the guys that we've gotten out of the portal who've been here as little as a year, or going on a year and change, or less than. I think for those guys, they have embraced and taken in what it is to be an LSU Fighting Tiger. I think that they have adapted and are proud to be here, and the things that we're doing in our culture and our way of life. I've visited with all of them about how that will look for us on Saturday. They're extremely excited to partake in it because they've never done it, because wherever they left, they were still yet an underclassman. And so a little different, I think, for some. Not much different for those who have been with us for a duration of time. We'll do some creative things with these guys in the back end of this week in a celebratory manner with our football team as they take their last practice reps of a home game on that practice field, and what that means and what that looks like, and build or prelude into what will be their Senior Day on Tiger game field as well. So I think the feeling is very much the same, that you have chills and goosebumps and excited about taking center stage in that stadium in front of 100,000 people, which we'll need, and they deserve to be able to stand in front of 100,000 Tiger fans.
The interim head coach, but let's switch the conversation to the next potential permanent head coach there in Baton Rouge. There's been a lot of talk. Let's be honest. I've seen grainy footage that looks like something from the 1970s. It's like, oh, there's Lane Kiffin there at the Baton Rouge airport. It's like Lane Kiffin's family at the Baton Rouge airport.
Those are live photos.
Exactly. Can you separate some truth from fiction as you know it, as it relates to the search for the next head coach, and as it relates to Lane Kiffin and his family?
Yeah. So what I've heard and had sources tell me is that apparently Lane's family was in town on Monday after they had been in Gainesville on Sunday, looking at high schools, touring campuses for certain high schools, trying to figure out, where Knox would go, where he would play his ball. And so it's all kind of crazy to me. It's like I thought the coaching carousel was going to be just a little crazy this year, and instead it was like, hold my beer, we're going to make this like a spectacle, and that's what it's been. It's just absolutely crazy. I'm ready for them to name a head coach. Like, I would give anything before Thanksgiving to know who's going to be here so that we can move forward. But I don't know. I know that you and y'all, we talked about, will Lane Kiffin come here? Will he not? Me personally, I don't think he's coming. I think Lane is the troll of all trolls, and he wants to be the pretty girl, and he wants to be wanted, especially after a few years ago he was not wanted by Florida or LSU, and they hired outside of him. And so I think he's got a vendetta. He's like, hey, you don't want me now, let's see how much you want me now. And so it's just, I think he's just trolling us. I think he is like, hey, show me everything you got, give me all this attention. Then he's gonna be like, just kidding, I'm good, I got my recruiting class and I got all this lined up. And I think he's gonna stay in Oxford. I think he's got it easy there, and I think he's, destined for the college football playoffs. And why would you build all of that and then leave that, especially even though he said the ultimatum wasn't really an ultimatum? Mm-hmm. Why would you leave that and not do what you set out to do and not see it through? I just can't see that. For me personally, that would drive me insane. I would always have regret of being like, we did all of that and then I'm going to leave for another program. It would just eat at me. Lane Kiffin, he's a different animal, so maybe he's like, it doesn't matter, I'll do it somewhere else. Who knows? But I don't believe that he's coming to Baton Rouge. Like, I just feel like he wants to be in control of everything, and his family's out here visiting these other places, but we haven't seen him. Right. We haven't seen him in the conversations. He's been very coy about, this is where I want to be, but then he's not signing the contract. So I just think he's making a mockery of all of us, and he's going to be like, y'all need to wait on this coaching hire, and then kind of put both LSU and Florida on the hot seat trying to figure out who they can hire in a short turnaround. And so I just think it's going to be the biggest troll job ever, and Lane's going to be like, I still got y'all.
So do you think LSU would be in front of Florida right now, or do you think the Gators are a little bit in front of LSU if Lane were to leave?
That's a good question. I think with the ties with his ex-wife, and y'all talked about it, he idolized Steve Spurrier. There's a reason why he wears the visor. That's the reason why he does some of the things. And he's talked about it, like the ball coach. That's who he idolized and he wanted to be him. And so to me, I would assume that Florida would have the upper hand, because then he can go to Florida and do what Steve Spurrier did. So then he's in that same conversation of like, hey, I did this, I'm on that level. LSU, I think, not that it's necessarily an easier road, but it's...
Well, Landry definitely wants him to go there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She needs to stay away from Whit Weeks. He's been hurt ever since they came out. Like, girl...
That's so true.
I know. Like, she gave him some voodoo spell or something. I don't know. She had
Lane's trolling. It's just Lane's trolling.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So, yeah, I think LSU, because of the two out of the three former coaches all won national championships, that it's easier for Lane to be like, hey, well, they did it. I know he thinks he's better head coach than Ed Ogeron. They're friends, and I'm sure he would tell Ed that. So I feel like it's just not the same caliber. At Florida, it's like a different echelon of, I am on that same elite level as Steve Spurrier, and that makes a difference.
Well, then if that's the case, and Lane is off the board, in your opinion, for LSU, who is maybe even people that we are not talking about? I know at the very beginning when BK was first talked about getting fired, you were all championing Dan Lanning, and I saw his odds were even up there as well. Has anything changed in the last few weeks?
No, I think Dan is happy with that Nike money, and I don't blame him. Same. To me, if I could pick, and this, I've had people push back on it, I think Blake Baker would be a big-time hire and would be a sneaky hire, because he played at Tulane. He's got ties to the state. These players absolutely love him. He is a player's coach. He is feisty. He gets it. I think if you hire him, you keep Frank Wilson, who's one of the best recruiters. You keep Corey Raymond, because he and Corey are like this. So to me, I just feel like that would be smarter hire in the sense of he's an up-and-coming coordinator who hasn't had that opportunity. We've seen a lot of guys like Dan Lanning, like a Kirby Smart, who were great coordinators. They just needed that opportunity, and I think Blake Baker is one of them. I just think he would be a great fit, and it would keep a lot of this coaching staff intact, and you have a lot more consistency. You're not building a brand new roster. You're not having a lot of turnover. So to me, I feel like Blake Baker would be the guy that I would go to.
I'll tell you what, it just makes the whole Vegas saying Nick Saban's the favorite to win the job just make it like so out of left field. Like, I'm so confused by it.
They're just collecting money from people who are idiots to bet on Nick Saban at 2-1 being the favorite there. To me, it's absolutely unbelievable. But there is a Hall of Fame coach there on campus. It is Kim Mulkey and this basketball team. 5 straight games they've scored north of 100 points in this one. Chessie, you've been high on this team from Jump Street, and I watch this team with you in mind all the time because you talked about how they not only have the talent, but I think they're gelling together really well. And that's the only way you can do it, in a 40-minute stretch, scoring 100 points in every game so far. I guess that you still take this team as, hey, they're meeting all of your expectations?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's impressive. You look at the roster, they only have 2 returning starters from a year ago. 2. And they are putting up these numbers. The last team that did that ever in program history at LSU, that was Kim Mulkey's second year, the national championship season. They did this as well. So I think they're on pace. Again, they shoot the ball really well, but they are so unselfish. And I think that is something that not all teams have. I think when you have a ton of stars, it's hard. Everybody wants theirs. And this team is just willing to, whoever has the hot hand that night, hey, girl, go get it. Go get you some. And so to me, that just stands out so much. And especially you have basically a starting 5, and then you could have another starting 5, and Kim's just never had that depth at LSU. So to see that depth, it's just super impressive. It's exciting. I know that they're playing teams that aren't at their level, but still the chemistry, again, with 8 new faces and to play like they've been playing together for years, you can't do that. We saw that just 2 years ago where they had the most talented transfer portal, and it was like every game everybody's trying to fight each other for who was scoring the ball. And so now I just think it's a team effort there. I think the one knock is defensively. They kind of got to figure it out and get it together. Bob Starkey is going to do that with them. But yeah, they're so much fun to watch. And Kim was all right with all the technical fouls and all that, and Kim is not. Kim is one to be like, no, come sit by me, boo-boo. And instead she's like, oh, it's fine. They ran their mouth. Go do your walk your walk and talk your talk. So to me, I just think this is the best team Kim has had at LSU, and I'm excited. I'm excited for SEC play.
Yeah, you used the word chemistry. It's kind of the magic word, and Kim Mulkey also used that word as well, describing the early start here for her squad.
Well, I knew the chemistry was there. They just haven't had a chance because I've been substituting a lot, and I just felt like I needed to get a good look tonight. I thought the reason Fulwally stayed in there with them the most, she was just disruptive defensively. Now, she got fatigued, and she really wants me to take her out in that moment, and I'm trying to push her to play in that moment. She gambles when she gets fatigued, and she lets people drive by her, and she's got to stop that. But that's why they played a lot together. Free throws. I mean, we missed 12 free throws. It was one of the games in the second half that I did not sub as freely as I have been, but that doesn't mean I'm down on them. It's just I went with some different looks tonight in that second half.
All right, before we let you go, there's some news out that Joe Burrow, a former LSU quarterback, could be back on the field this week.
Full participant today.
Full participant in practice today. Now, I think last week they said that the Bengals have 21 days, I think, to be able to activate him, and we're still a week in, so still in that 21-day window. I know there's a lot of LSU fans that they still cheer for their guys as they go to the next level. And with 2 main guys in both Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and still an outside shot at the postseason there for Cincinnati, that's got to land well with the Baton Rouge brethren.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because right before they do the announcement of LSU running out in pregame, they always do former Tigers in the NFL, and the last 3, it's Jaden, Jamar, and then Burrow, and everybody loses their mind. So it's cool to see. I just need Jamar to quit spitting on people and lying about it. If he could do that, that would be great.
I know.
He's kind of tanking my fantasy this week in a week that I could clinch the playoffs. So that's kind of unfortunate.
Officially suspended?
Yeah, he tried to appeal it, which I don't.
Yeah,
that's probably him just being like, it's worth a shot, but he's never going to win that.
He's never going to win that. No,
you can't double down on that.
You're absolutely right, Chessa. Thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. I know you have a very busy week. Thank you for your insight.
Absolutely, y'all. Have a good one.
Thanks. Chessa Boucher joining us from Baton Rouge and putting a lot of nonsense. I think she's one of the most, I love her because you could tell her passion and her energy for LSU, but it doesn't go over the top like some people when they think, okay, we're getting John Gruden, we're getting whatever. She's like, okay, no, probably not getting Lane for X, Y, and Z reasons. And I think if you're LSU, having those tempered expectations is a good thing.
Passion for the team you cover, that's obviously a very good thing,
100%.
But that could roll over into some bias. But I think she does great with controlling the bias and being brutally honest about LSU. I mean, some of her funniest moments are about LSU and the whole Brian Kelly thing a couple weeks ago and the governor. I mean, let me tell you, you never know what you're going to get in those 15 to 20 minutes that she's on every week. Makes for great content.
And she's called it every single time. Before Brian Kelly was fired, she said he was going to get fired. Before this women's basketball team got off to a 5-0 start, she said, watch out.
She said, watch out, it's the best team.
This team is dangerous and good, and they have certainly proved it through the first 5 games. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we dive back into the college football playoff rankings and so much more. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, the 3rd edition of the College Football Playoff Committee rankings are now released. We knew there would be some shakeup, and we knew there would be some points of disagreement, so to speak, in all points of this bracket. But we want to talk about some specifically here with this College Football Playoff bracket. I know where I want to go. I want to get your first takes on what you saw of the committee bracket, because we had what we thought over the last 2 days, on Monday and Tuesday, what we thought digesting the 12th week of the college football season. What did you make of it afterwards?
Well, I have 2 main discrepancies, and we'll talk about one right now, and this is a Power 4 and independent discrepancy, and that is Notre Dame getting an at-large bid over Miami right now. Now, I understand that Miami is projected to make it. I think they have them in as the ACC champion,
yes, they
but
do.
I don't understand how that can be the case because Miami has two ACC losses,
yes,
and I just don't see Georgia Tech and the other teams above them. I think Virginia as well, and Pittsburgh. Like, I don't think they're going to lose another ACC game. I think it's going to be Virginia, Georgia Tech for the ACC championship. So Miami would have to get in as an at-large bid. What you're telling me right now, and honestly, if they were to just come out and say this, I'd be perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
Because at least you're admitting it.
Right.
What you're saying now is head-to-head doesn't matter, and it's all about the brand. If you were just to come out and say, well,
correct.
we want the Notre Dame brand in the college football playoff, I'd respect you a little bit more if you just came out and said that.
Right.
Because that's just what it is right now. Why even play the games? Because let me tell you this. If Notre Dame were to get in with 2 losses and Miami weren't with 2 losses, even though Miami beat Notre Dame,
yes.
Why, if you're in the ACC, would you schedule Notre Dame anymore?
Yeah, there would be no need
point.
to. There would be no need to. Yeah, and you're exactly right. And I think that the Miami situation, that can resolve itself hopefully here at the end of the season if they lose that next game. What I thought too was maybe even trying to backdoor, and I don't think there's any way you can do this. I don't know if there's any way you could backdoor 2 ACC teams in this thing.
Can't.
There's no way. Trying to get the champion and Miami in there, which would be, to me, insane.
Yeah, the conference, you look at the metrics in the eye test, they don't really pass the metrics.
Right.
And they definitely. The conference definitely doesn't pass the eye test because, I mean, you just had Georgia Tech struggle
with Boston College.
I don't care if we have some SEC haters out there and everyone hating on the SEC for all the hypothetical matchups. You cannot tell me that Boston College would beat Arkansas in a game.
No.
You cannot tell me that.
No.
And I think Arkansas honestly beats them by at least 2 touchdowns.
I would say 2 touchdowns. And maybe the same thing with a bunch of other teams out of the SEC. I would say the same thing for Mississippi State.
Yes. Honestly, the bottom half of the SEC.
Yeah.
Because the top half is definitely beating Boston College.
Yes.
Because Boston College is bad, honestly, probably as bad as Purdue.
Right.
I made the same argument about the Big 12 or the Big 10 as well with Purdue.
Right.
Like there's no way Arkansas is losing to them.
Right.
No. I don't care about the hypothetical matchups. That's just facts.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to me, I said going into it, I was really interested in seeing where they ranked Notre Dame vis-a-vis Alabama.
Right.
Because that matchup to me, or the way that they put those teams on for me, lets me know what you think of not only this team, but also what you think of their resumes going into it. I'm right there with you. I think if you want to do a brand thing and you're saying, hey, we'd put Miami and Notre Dame in because it's a brand situation and they were the brand of the 80s and the 90s and it will draw more eyeballs, I'm fine. I'm fine with it if that's what you say.
And honestly, I'm going to pull the bracket back up here for a second.
Yeah.
I'm almost hoping Oregon loses this weekend to USC because then the committee can get – you talked about it on the show. I think it was the committee wants to get those matchups. They love those matchups.
Absolutely.
Well, if Oregon were to lose, I could see a Notre Dame-Alabama matchup in the first round of the college football playoff. Let me tell you, the ratings would be through the roof.
I know it. Yes.
Easily the best-rated first-round game of any playoff ever.
Yes.
Any sport.
Yes. That game in Tuscaloosa, I mean, I think that'd be
Would
unbelievable.
it be in Tuscaloosa? Because right now Notre Dame is 9 and Alabama's 10.
So, that's right. Yeah. I think that if no, you are spot on about that.
And you know the committee. I don't care if Hunter Yurachek is an SEC guy.
Yeah.
Which then, if Alabama were to jump Notre Dame, then that would just send the whole world into mass chaos.
Oh, yeah.
But you know they're going to want to get a home game in South Bend any way they can.
Right. If Alabama finds their way into the SEC championship game and beats Texas A&M, do you think that would vault them ahead of Notre Dame?
Yes.
Okay. So they
would have to. But I just don't understand, and I'd love your input on this as well. What happens if Georgia makes the SEC championship game and loses and has 3 losses?
Yes.
How can you punish people for making the conference championship.
Right,
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
And that is a real possibility for this team. Now, would it hurt the SEC overall? Maybe not getting that fifth team in. There's a possibility for that. But I'm right there with you, because you're not going to lock a Georgia team out that loses in the SEC championship game, even though they have 3 losses on the season. I don't think you can punish, whether it's Alabama, for example. If Alabama goes in to the SEC championship game and loses,
and I don't think the path for Alabama is that tough to get in the SEC championship. I think they just need Texas A&M to lose to Texas to end the year.
Yes,
and then obviously to win out.
Right. If they win out, they'll finish 7-1 in league play, and if Texas A&M loses to Texas, they would finish 7-1.
And I think it would be Alabama, Texas A&M,
and it'd be Alabama and Texas A&M. Georgia's done an SEC play, of course. They already they played their 8 games. Ole Miss has the Egg Bowl left, so
I think Ole Miss is out of it as well.
Right. Yes, and Ole Miss would be out by nature of.
They would. I think they would need mass chaos, like all of those teams above them, to lose.
Yes, exactly.
And then they would, I think, play Georgia.
Right. So, I mean, Ole Miss has its spot, but they can't win the SEC championship game. And honestly, I think if you're Ole Miss, you kind of like where you are right now, because you don't have to play that extra game in Atlanta. You just go in there, take care of business in the Egg Bowl, and you're sitting scotch-free just waiting for whoever's going to come to auction.
Yeah, I mean, you got a few weeks off. Now we see how that sometimes affects teams. Specifically ones that got that first round bye, because I mean they had like a month off. I mean that was just that's a tough thing to go through.
Right.
We talk about it all the time. You know, a lot of controversy around the wild card and MLB moving to a series instead of one game, because that's more time off, and especially with baseball, you can't just go so long without playing. I think it'd be advantageous to Ole Miss if they were to win out. They'd presumably get the 6th seed, host the ACC champion. I mean, I would much rather do that rather than be the 7th seed, obviously, and host the 10th seed.
The 10th seed, right. And there's just a lot to decide here.
Yes.
And I do think, though, it is a weird year because the top of the SEC is so strong, the top of the Big Ten is so strong.
Right.
And the top of the ACC is so weak, and the group of 5 is in a shaky spot as of right now. However, we will dive way more into that group of 5.
But first, I mean, we just got to talk about this because, you know, it's my team.
Okay.
The Irish face Syracuse this week. They're 35.5-point favorites. So all of this could just not matter if Notre Dame were to somehow lose this game. But let me tell you, if Notre Dame were to lose this game, they deserve to be blasted so far into the shadow realm, never to be heard from ever again. Because that would be the biggest embarrassment to the Irish since Brian Kelly was head coach. So you're so far into the shadow realm, like gone, like just blasted.
Where is that game, by the way? Is that game in Syracuse?
No, it's not.
I'll
look
it
is
not. It's a Notre Dame. I mean,
and I say that
35 points for a reason, because
Joe Filardi is starting at quarterback for Syracuse, and I know everyone's like, "Who is Joe Filardi?" Well, he had a 1.9 passer QBR against UNC. So if you lose to that dude, you are banned forever. Banned from college football. You need to be relegated to Division III football.
Those 3 losses, I mean, it almost would be a situation where you could count that as a 4th loss.
Yes. That'd be a double loss. That would honestly feel like you went 3-9.
Exactly. We got to take one more break, right? Still, right?
Yeah. We
All right, so coming up next here, we'll discuss the group of 5 and what it means for the teams moving forward. Stay with us. Final moments here on Southeast Sports Plus this Wednesday. We've digested a little bit about what this college football playoff ranking means as far as some of those teams in the middle. Of course, with the format right now, one group of 5 team has to get in.
Right.
Now, we have seen kind of like a 3-team race between James Madison, North Texas, and Tulane. Memphis was in it for a little while. They're now out. There's a few other teams out of the American. They're now out. You have some beef here with where North Texas is not.
I had some beef on the other side of this past break, but I still don't understand it. I'm not trying to be like Mad Dog Russo or any stretch of the imagination, but I just don't understand why North Texas is being left out of the latest college football playoff rankings. They sit at 9-1. Currently, Tulane is in there at 8-2.
Right.
North Texas is riding a 4-game win streak, and let me just show you what I mean here. Tulane, 24th in the latest college football playoff rankings. They're 8-2, 5-1 in American play. Best win you could say is 38-32 at Memphis. At the time, that seemed like Memphis was knocked out of it, and then there was another one, and then it was just mass chaos. The worst loss they had, and honestly, I think a lot of people had them on upset watch, was against UTSA, 48-26. I mean, that was a brutal loss. And they still face Temple on the road. I think they'll win that game, and I think they'll beat Charlotte at home. So I think they do finish 10-2 to end the year. And then you compare it to North Texas, who's 9-1, also 5-1 in American play. Best win is 31-17 against the current #1 team in the American right now.
Yes.
And also not on here, they beat UTSA by, I think, a touchdown.
Yes, they
at
did.
least.
Yep, it was 55. I don't know. They beat you. They killed UTSA.
Yes,
55-17.
Which just makes it even worse. And I understand. Okay, the worst loss is their lone loss, the 63-36 against USF. Yeah, they didn't look great that game, but honestly, I mean, UTSA blew out Tulane, and then North Texas goes and blows out UTSA. They still face Rice. They still face Temple. So I just don't understand how you're letting a 2-loss team trump a 1-loss team. Right. And honestly, the strength of victories on the 1-loss team is better than the 2-loss team.
Right.
Are you saying it's because they played Ole Miss and lost by 35?
Right.
Like, we can't even say that's an accurate argument.
And I think they're giving them a lot of credit for that Duke game, too, at the beginning of the season when they beat Duke. And so they beat the I think what they're going to say is if we will give the upper hand to the group of 5 that beat the Power 4 team. But I'm like, if you're using that, it becomes a slippery slope because then group of 5 teams can just start scheduling the lower end of Power 4 teams.
The reason why I didn't put Duke as the best win is because we've seen how Duke is, if they were still in contention for the ACC.
Right.
And they were just this past week, I think. And they could have made the college football playoff with 4 losses, which that just blows my mind right there.
I know.
That's not even a quality win anymore because Duke has just been so up and down and up and down. And the ACC is just a joke.
And I would take the upper end of the American over Duke anyway. So I'm just hey, you're only doing that because Duke happens to be in the ACC. It's almost like that lazy argument of like, okay, well, that this team is like what Hunter Yurchek said about the Oregon-Penn State game. Oh, we're still giving Oregon the credit for beating Penn State. And it's like, you have to view it differently now. Yeah. And I think that if you are the committee, you have to view the Duke win now, and it's not as impressive as it was back then. They started 3-0. They were the team to beat.
But we can't just pick and choose when we want to count wins as quality wins.
Correct.
Like that's the thing here is like, okay, you could talk about Penn State being a quality win for some reason. I mean, Oregon really, the only quality game they played against a quality opponent was Indiana, and they lost by 10 on their own field.
Exactly, yeah.
Like I don't really understand that
I do have one question to pose to you because we have said,
hit me with it.
We have said that the AP and the coaches poll doesn't matter this time of year, but I am interested to know if you are interested in the way that these teams fell in the AP poll and the coaches poll.
I know North Texas was ranked, but
yes,
they were one in front of Tulane, weren't they?
That's exactly right.
What?
So James Madison. It's actually, I'll go the AP poll first. James Madison is actually the highest ranked team in the group of 5 at number 21. Followed closely by North Texas at number 22. They were only a few points apart. And then at 24 is Tulane. So It's
Man,
now three spots back. So what the coaches and the coaches and that was the AP poll. Let me give you the coaches poll. Coaches poll about the same. James Madison 22, North Texas 23, Tulane is 25. So even the coaches and the media are telling you they like either one or two teams before they like Tulane. They like James Madison. They like North Texas. And actually, it's in that order. I'm not sure about James Madison. Obviously, they play in the Sun Belt, so it's a different league.
Right.
I think the American is harder than the Sun Belt, but it's telling you that they think that North Texas is better than Tulane.
And guys, the own Tulane head coach doesn't even believe in his guys. Here, take a listen.
I don't know. I hadn't watched that many other people play. I watch us play, and I watch whoever get ready to play. And then after that, I don't really know who else is out there. I mean, I'll just be very candid. There's some days I feel like we're one of the bottom 25 teams in the country watching us play. So, if we want to start feeling comfortable or casual about somebody wanting to vote us in the top 25 teams, there must be a lot of bad football going on if we're one of the top 25 teams. So, I mean, there must be some really bad football played right now in college football. So, I don't know. We're average. We're an average team. We get every 6 or 7 days, depending on the schedule of the week, to promote ourselves or embarrass ourselves. We've done that before, so we better get ready to play. I think I watched this practice today. I think we're average.
That is unbelievably.
So
you usually hear that the other way, like they politic to try to get in. I've never heard a coach on the other side of that.
Keep in mind, this press conference was before the rankings came out yesterday.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. If I'm Hunter Yurachek and I'm on the committee, I'm hearing it from the coach himself. I mean, he said they're average. I just don't see a world where, I mean, who knows? Things could pan out here in the next few weeks. I mean, for some reason, Tulane could lose to Temple. That game is on the road.
Yeah.
Crazier things have happened.
Exactly. And I think that especially in this day and age, when the G5 only gets that one team in, because those margins of error are so slim, it actually kind of helps you out if you're actually rooting against them. If you're North Texas right now, there's a thought that, hey, in the next 8 quarters, Tulane can slip up and lose, and then you get everything you want. If you're North
Tulane
Texas, if Tulane loses,
and then North Texas closes the year with them, that's an automatic in.
Automatic in, and we'll see.
Automatic.
Exactly, and we'll see, because they both have really interesting games.
That was my bone to pick with the Group of 5.
Group of 5, North Texas. Put them in there. College Football Playoff Committee. We'll have much more coming up tomorrow here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll see you then, 2 to 4.